Live, the Israel Sports Radio Studios in Jerusalem, Israel, our nation's capital. It's Louis Live! Today's host, me, and Moshe Guia. How you doing, Moshe?
I'm good, Ari. How about yourself?
Doing great. We have a great jam-packed show for you all. A little mixture of soccer, still some NBA Finals talk, and Major League Baseball as well. Interesting story revolving the Yankees game. Go ahead, Moshe, tell us a bit about that.
Well, the Yankees left fielder, I believe it was chasing after a ball into the stands, a foul ball. He tumbled in and pretended like he held on to the ball when, in fact, he did not. The umpire did not check his glove. He just took him at his word. The player ran back to the dugout. It was called inning over, game over.
Wow. So never cease for cheating out there in the Bronx. So interesting stuff that happened out there at Yankee Land. And so we'll see if we have time to talk that with Jim Williams. A lot of kind of fun stories. There was a national anthem singer's marriage proposal that happened with the Marlins. So pretty good story there. NBA draft right around the corner. And the Sandusky tape, trial doesn't go away. He's, of course, found guilty, sentencing on the way. And his son came out with the tape saying he was sexually abused as well. Larry Bird, of course, leaving the Pacers, as we mentioned yesterday. And there is actually going to be a 14 playoff in college football. So people have wanted this for a long, long time. It looks like it's going to happen.
2014, I believe.
Yes, in 2014, so a couple years away. And I didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime. It looks like we are going to see it. We're going to get things started. We're going to dial up Rob Adams, who is a veteran broadcaster and marketing professional out of New York City. So actually, when we get him on, I'll let you, Moshe, talk with him about that play in Yankee Stadium. Good stuff there. And we thank everyone for joining us here on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Also want to remind everyone to check out our store, which is on the store tab. Go ahead and click that, and you can see great items, T-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. So let's get things started. Dial Rob right now. And get right to it. Almost in July, and make some program announcements at the end of this program regarding scheduling for July. Hi, am I speaking with Rob?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Rob. This is Ari Louis. You're live on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. How you doing out there?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. I want to introduce you to my co-host for today, Moshe Kwiat. Go ahead, Moshe.
Hey, how are you doing out there? Good.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Interesting story last night with the Yankees down there in New York with Dwayne Wise fake catching a ball in the stands. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was a wild scene, guys. Dwayne Wise, with 2 outs in the 7th inning, dealt with a fly ball down the left field line. As he goes over right toward the stands, and the stands jut out there, it gets very tight along the left field line at Yankee Stadium. Wise goes into the crowd looking like he's made a great catch. At least at the first view on TV, looked like it was a catch. And Michael Kay, the Yankee broadcaster, described it as such. I watched the whole thing, and you could see very clearly on the replay that Wise didn't even come close to making the catch. The ball hit off the heel of his glove. He dropped it, and he even admitted that he came out of the stands without the ball in the glove. The umpire never bothered to even look at his glove and see that there was no ball there. So he played it off perfectly. The Yankees got away with the call, but it was a horrible job by the umpires. They should know better.
Yeah, and also the fan, I believe he was wearing a red shirt, I saw in the replays, was holding the ball right in front of the ump's face, and the ump didn't even flinch. I thought that was sort of a crazy story out there.
Yeah, it really is, and it highlights how baseball still has trouble with umpires, and it's something that's going to have to be worked out. You know, human error is part of the game, a big part of the game, but unfortunately it was a big enough Yankee lead that it didn't make a difference, but it could have really hurt that game in the long run.
Right. As an Orioles fan, I was thinking about Jeffrey Meyer from the playoffs in '96. Just brought back bad memories of that.
Oh, my goodness. I remember that game as clear as a bell. The ball off the bat of last night's birthday boy, Derek Jeter, into right field, and Richie Garcia, the umpire, made a terrible call. I always remember John Miller's broadcast call on the Orioles radio network at that time saying that very thing. It was a terrible call.
That was something else, and I also remember that, and it was, I'm sure, frustrating for the Orioles fans in there. Mostly as an Orioles fan, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So that was hard there. Let's move to college football, because apparently news is coming out that there's going to be a 4-team playoff starting in 2014, and people wanted this for a long, long time. Currently, the BCS system in effect, the 1 versus the 2. What are your thoughts about this? What are some of the terms in regard to the 4-team playoff? Does it have to be from certain conferences, or is it straight out the top 4 teams in ranking from the AP poll in for the playoffs?
Well, it's going to be a little more involved than that, guys, in that a committee, much like what we see with the NCAA basketball committee, they're going to look at the top teams in college football. Now, college football, in terms of the conference championship, will play a role in it, but it's really going to be kind of a judgment call. They'll look at the strength of schedule and things like that, and then they'll take these teams and put them into a playoff format. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination right now. I think college football still has a long way to go in that regard. I'm not sure 4 teams is the best answer. Down the line, you probably are looking at 8 teams. I don't think 16 is realistic, simply because we still have to remember that these are students, and there's a school calendar to keep in mind. But the almighty dollar gets the rule of the day. Am I happy about it? Well, it's better than the current system, because the current system had gotten so bad, guys, that it was almost like we should just go back to having a poll and letting that be, the way that they determine a champion. So at least this way we get a shot at having some kind of a true national playoff championship scenario. So it'll be intriguing to watch, that's for sure.
So is the setup, as you know, are they going to use the bowls in this playoff system? For example, have maybe a 2 versus 3 play in the Rose Bowl, a 1-4 in the Orange Bowl, winner play in the Sugar Bowl, something like that? Have they gotten over those terms yet?
They are still working all of that out, but that is kind of the way it's going to be, that they're going to take a rotation of the major bowls. It won't be the Humanitarian Bowl or the or the Pinstripe Bowl or some of these other lower bowls. It will be the big ones, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta, the Orange, all the big time, what used to be the traditional New Year's Day games. Those will be the ones that play a role in all of this.
Okay, and what was the final straw, if you will, that moved everyone towards this direction?
It had been building for a long time, guys, because, we had all these failed situations where, for instance, the polls would have, the AP would have one poll, the coaches poll would have another champion, 2 different champions would be determined, and then the BCS scenario came along, and we had one thing after another that just got so out of hand where, people were saying the wrong teams were playing or not liking what they saw last year, which was the rematch, of course, between LSU and Alabama, the 2 teams that had played just, a month and a half, 2 months earlier, played all over again. So that really had a lot to do with it, that there was just so many flaws and so much public outcry. And at the end of the day, money rules all, and I think they realize, the NCAA does, that there is an absolute windfall of money to be had here.
All right, stay with college football. More of a sadder story, obviously. Of course, former assistant coach of Penn State, Sandusky, has been found guilty, sentencing awaiting, and the tape has come out where his son talks about sexual abuse. They can't. I don't imagine they would add the charge onto it, but just kind of another sad chapter to this. And I guess I still don't understand how he got away with this for so long. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I know he's a powerful guy with Coach Paterno and a powerful position, but apparently there's been accusations he's been doing this since the 80s. And I kind of don't want to know. I don't know what to say. I want to get your thoughts on it. How do you think he was able to get away with this for so long?
Well, it's the Old Boys Network. It was a shameful, sad story in which Jerry Sandusky was a powerful person to begin with at a major college program, one of the preeminent college programs in all of the United States, and certainly the power that he had in helping to develop Linebacker University, as they called it, that played a big role in the whole thing. His connection to Joe Paterno, his closeness there, that played a role in all of it. And when it was initially discovered that, stuff was going on and it was getting to Paterno, Paterno would report it but not take that extra step. He would simply say to his superior, something is going on here, and then that's kind of where it died. It was just kind of squashed. Again, money playing a big role in it because Penn State is so powerful. They can attract all these major athletes there. They had the great reputation as linebacker university, so it had so much to do with being just swept under the rug that, oh, it was no big deal. It was almost like hand it to the next guy and the next guy will handle it. Hand it to the next guy and the next guy will handle it. And this chain of command went all the way to the top, and the president of the university kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, it is what it is. We just carry on from there. It is such a terrible, painful story coming out. The details of it are disgusting, and the concern is now, does this bring any kind of closure to it? And of course it doesn't, because things like this are going on all over youth sports, all over, the world, and it's beyond scary to think of such things. Hopefully we can eradicate the world of these kinds of people, but there's a long way to go, and there are so many responsible, good people that are involved with youth and youth sports, and you don't want to dirty their names and tarnish anybody's image, but this is a great concern that has gone on as a result of Jerry Sandusky, who can only be portrayed as a monster.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I found interesting regarding this tape, it was apparently released without Matt, that's his son, of course, approval. Did Matt? I mean, I guess Matt testified because he wanted the truth to come out, but did he want the truth to come out in this form publicly? And do you think there's a chance of any lawsuit action coming from Matt's end regarding the people who released this tape and the press who used it?
Yeah, I think there's always that risk because he did not want it revealed, as you alluded to, and I think that is a definite concern that there could be a lawsuit, because you don't want his rights violated, his privacy violated, and that's really at the forefront of a lot of this, is the concerns for the privacy of all of these victims all over. Many of the Sandusky victims in general did not want their names revealed, and they weren't revealed. That's one thing that the state of Pennsylvania, or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania rather, did do correctly. They protected the identity of these victims, and they don't allow cameras in the courtroom, so all of that was able to keep private. And I think at the end of the day there could be a lawsuit down the road for the outlets that publish this information. It's a bad job, because Matt Sandusky wanted it private.
All right, and staying with football, but going to the pros, Drew Brees is still waiting to hear if the Saints are going to agree to the deal. It sounds like $2 million is the big sticking point between the two parties. And after Bountygate, everything the Saints have been found guilty of, and all their coaches being punished, it seems like they need Drew Brees more than ever. He's really the king of Louisiana. At the end of the day, do you think Drew Brees is going to stick around with the Saints?
I do. I think Drew Brees is beyond important to the city of New Orleans, as you just mentioned, and to Louisiana in general. He has become such an ambassador for the sport of football, for the city of Louisiana, for the city of New Orleans, and for the Saints. He's an important person to have. Plus, he's a great player. There's no doubt about that, setting, the passing records that he set last year. So he needs to be re-signed by the Saints, and the Saints need it from the mere perspective of keeping a decent image there, because of everything that went on with the Bountygate situation. And there's still things to be resolved. There's still lawsuits to go down there. Some of the talk going on with Jonathan Vilma, who I think is out to lunch because he's guilty as can be, but he still thinks he has a chance of getting his punishment reduced. But I think Drew Brees is such a huge factor in all this, and I think the Saints have to do the right thing by him and get him the money he deserves. He's a great player. He's a great ambassador. He's a very good person. He's done so much for that city. I think it's very, very important that they lock him up, and lock him up big time for a big role.
And staying on the subject of a big person leaving, of course, Drew Brees hasn't left yet, and hopefully will not for the fans of the Saints. But Larry Bird is leaving the Pacers, and I brought this up on my show yesterday because Larry Bird was the coach of the Pacers for 3 years, did a great job, coach of the year, and took the team to the NBA Finals, but he retired from coaching. He said there's only a certain window you can really coach in nowadays in the NBA, and that it's time to move on. And do you feel that's kind of the same thing regarding his position with the Pacers? He made some moves, had to get rid of Ron Artest, try to get some things for Reggie Miller to get him a supporting cast to win in his final years, but it didn't work out. I guess basically, what do you think is the reason Larry Bird is leaving the Pacers?
Larry Bird's always been the kind of person that he recognizes when he's done with a situation, and I think he just knew that it was time to move on. Some people can stay in their positions for years, but we don't see it as much anymore. We don't see that one person that stays in a position of power, be it coaching or GM, for the long, long term. There's the rarity, the Tony La Russa in baseball that stayed as long as he did with the Cardinals. But for a Larry Bird, he's more of the type of person that says, okay, I've done this a couple of years, now it's time for the next challenge. And we don't know what went on behind the scenes at the offices of the Indiana Pacers, whether or not he had just enough of this kind of pressure or that kind of pressure, whatever it may be. So I think he just said, okay, this is enough. Let me try something new. And who knows what that something new will be.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if he's going to kind of go out in the sunset, if you will. I mean, he grew up in Indiana, went to college there, so it made sense he wanted to go back to the Pacers to finish out his career. I don't know if he could go to another team. You would say the Celtics, but the Celtics are pretty set with their position, so it's hard to tell at the end what Larry Legend is going to do. We're still, of course, a few days outside of the NBA Finals. Heat win in 5 games. LeBron James, 3 times the charm for him. He's a champion, the 3-time MVP. Let's talk about potential dynasties. First of all, the Thunder could be back. They're a young team. It looks like their core is together. But LeBron James, 28 years old, it could be his best basketball has not been played yet. Dwayne Wade did not have to play great, and the Heat still won the title, which is scary for everyone out there in the NBA. Chris Bosh was injury-prone and injury-riddled, and still the Heat won. So what are the chances of a dynasty here, maybe 3 in a row, and then the LeBron will have to decide if he wants to stay with the Heat because I believe his contract will be up then.
Well, I talked about a lot of this on my radio show back on Monday night, and it comes down to a consideration that the Thunder are in such good shape because they've got all these guys locked up for a couple of years now, and you think the key guys being Durant and Westbrook, how talented they are, how good they are, you just feel like they're going to be back again. Hey, we could see the Heat and Thunder play a couple of times over the next few years because there's just that kind of talent on both sides. On the Heat side, James, I agree. I don't think he has played his best basketball yet, and I think what we saw in these playoffs was that Dwayne Wade initially thought this was his team, and what we saw in the playoffs was this was LeBron James' team. James put the team on his back and took them to an NBA championship, dominant basketball down the stretch. Bosh looked good, solid once he was healthy, but as you mentioned, he does have the injury problems. Wade was more of a supporting player and yet a star, don't get me wrong, but this was all about LeBron James. He played amazing basketball. They could easily be a champion again next year, but like I said, there's no doubt that the Thunder are going to have something to say about it because they are just way too talented. They've got good coaching, they've got great players, and they're all very locked up and secure for the next couple of years. So I think, you talk about forces to be reckoned with, the Heat and Thunder are going to be 2 of those teams that we're going to watch for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think so. Especially the Celtics are probably on their way out. We don't know how Derrick Rose is going to recover from that injury. I'm sure he'll make it in time for the playoffs, but you don't know how fresh he's going to be. And out of the West, you would think at some point the Spurs are going to go away, but who knows? I've been saying that for a few years. But it seems like those 2 are the front runners. If I had to make a decision now, I would probably say the Heat and Thunder are going back. For sure, I would say the Heat. Let's go to the NBA draft right around the corner. Anthony Davis, generally the consensus number 1 pick on all the mock drafts out there. And then after that, I don't want to say it's a bit of a crapshoot, but it's hard to know who really is the second best player. A lot of people say Thomas Robinson. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist could go to the Cavs at 4. Who do you see as maybe a steal this draft, someone's not paying attention to, and a team could get lucky enough to pick him up and have him for a few years?
Boy, that's a great question because this really is a wide-open draft. This is just one of those years where you wonder, who is that guy going to be? And we talked about, as you mentioned, Anthony Davis and what a talented player he is. And you wonder, who is going to be that guy? Could it be, someone like a Dion Waiters from Syracuse because, a solid bench player who could come up and, put up 12 points a game thereabouts. So there are guys like that you wonder about. Who can be that player to make that kind of impact? Is it a Damian Lillard who can go, to Portland maybe? That kind of a guy. A Mo Harkless. Who's going to be that guy that the NBA is going to take the chance on and have it be their sleeper? There are a bunch of names to consider, and it's a very wide open draft.
Yeah, absolutely, and time's going to tell. I mean, I know a lot of people are upset the Hornets got the pick since they were NBA-owned during the lottery, but you never know. Anthony Davis could end up being a bust. It could be someone else. I mean, we have seen some bad drafts, but that still have a star or two. The 2001 draft, you had just a bust all over the place. Kwame Brown at 1, but then Gilbert Arenas was in the second round, and before the gun incident was a pretty good player for the Wizards. So you never know what's going to happen out of the NBA draft. It's part of the reason why it's a lot of fun at the end of the day. Okay, now last question before we let you go. Let's move over to Major League Baseball. Now, we talked about the Yankees, of course, with that situation. They're at first, last night with the fan. They're in first place, 4 games ahead of the Orioles, and they were struggling a bit of the season. Now they're back where a lot of people expected them to be. Jeter cooled off from his hot start not too long ago. He was batting over 400. What do you think is the big reason for the surge for the Yankees?
I think it starts first and foremost with their starting pitching. Their starting pitching has been much better. Top of the rotation, got the boost, obviously, from the return of Andy Pettitte. CC Sabathia has not pitched his best baseball yet, although he has a good record. I think he can be a lot better than he has been. So Pettitte and Sabathia at the top of the rotation, and Phil Hughes is looking much better lately. He was dominant last night, 8 innings again, looked very good, coming together, and then Hiroki Kuroda. So when you've got 4 solid starters at the top of the rotation, along with Ivan Nova, who pitches to a high ERA, but for some reason the Yankees' bats come alive when Nova pitches. So you've got these 5 guys that look really good in the rotation, and then a bullpen that without Mariano Rivera still might be the best bullpen in baseball, and it's scary to me to think how good, if not great and legendary, this bullpen would be if Rivera was the guy at the back end closing out the games. That's what it's all about. My concern about the Yankees remains, and I've been saying this for a while, they are terrible with runners in scoring position. Now, last night they looked better. They got some 2-out hits. They played some small ball and didn't live off the home run. But they're hitting too many home runs, which is not a bad thing. I mean, everyone loves home runs, and it's great for offense. It's the name of the game. But you need more than the solo home runs. You need the 2 runs and 3-run shots and things like that. And they're not doing enough of that. They're not doing enough of getting the little things done. They can come up and just strand a whole country on base at times. Leaving the bases loaded is a common theme with this Yankee team, and that's what concerns me, especially when they get to the postseason and they're facing the better pitching in baseball.
Yeah, you hit it right out with the pitching, because anyone who looks at the top leaders of the team, Derek Jeter's leading the team in average, and he's only batting .305. Alex Rodriguez is leading stolen bases, only has 6. Nick Swisher at RBI 46, not bad, but for a leader of a division-leading team, it does seem pretty weird, but the pitching is certainly key, and happy Andy Pettitte is doing well. Rob, this was a lot of fun. We certainly appreciate your time here on Louis Live and Israel Sports Radio, and we'd love to do it with you again in the future.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Anytime. Happy to do it. This was a lot of fun.
All right, Rob. Be well out there. We'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, that was Rob Adams, and we appreciate his time here on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. We're going to remind everyone to check out our store, which is on the store tab. If you click on that, you can see great items, T-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. We're going to take a break, and on the other side, 7-time award winner Jim Williams. This is Louis Live in Israel, sportsradio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Tapioca, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom. DJ Venom. DJ Venom. DJing parties throughout Israel. Birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music, and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Louis Live, our thanks to Rob Adams for breaking down the world of sports. We're going to continue the fun. Welcome Raphael to the studio. Hey, Raphael, how you doing?
What's up, Ari Louis? How you doing? I haven't seen you in hours, it seems.
Yeah.
Days, weeks.
I think it's been hours.
Yeah.
We're going to dial right now our next guest. He's a 7-time Emmy Award winner. Emmy Award winner from the Washington Examiner, Jim Williams. Dialing up right now. And again, so much still to talk about. We're fresh off a lot of big stories. The NBA Finals, the Jerry Sandusky trial. And hi, Jim. This is Ari Louis. You're live on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. How you doing out there?
I'm wonderful. How are you guys?
Doing great. And Raphael's been chopping the bit. He wants to ask you the first question. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. How's it going?
I'm doing well, Raphael. How are you?
Good. I wanted to start with the big college basketball story that we were reporting here on Israel Sports Radio yesterday, and I really don't like it, so I want to get your thoughts. UConn will be playing Michigan State next year in an Air Force Base in Germany. Before you give me your thoughts, I want to tell you my thoughts. I like the idea. I think it's great, but I don't like the teams because UConn next year is going to be horrible. You know, you got Lamb, who's gone to the NBA. You've got Drummond, who's gone to the NBA. You've got 3 guys who transferred. It's going to be a very, very down year for UConn. They're not expected to do much. Michigan State, of course, is participating in it because their athletic director has been involved with all the games, and he's kind of the architect of all this. But also Michigan State is not going to have a good year. Draymond Green graduated, is going to move on to the NBA. They're going to be a young team, probably ranked in the top 25. So, Jim, my question for you is, wouldn't you want to showcase the best teams in the country. Like last year on the Navy ship in San Diego is a top North Carolina team against a very good Michigan State team that ended up making a run and was a co-champion in the Big Ten. So do you like the two teams? I just don't like it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it's an ill-advised, matching, and I would agree with that. But I think under the circumstances, it may be one of those situations where, these things take years to put together. It's not like, you've called somebody up and say, hey, how about we, get on a plane and fly to Germany and play. My guess is, as in most cases, these things are 3 and 4 years in advance that you have to do the conversations and talk with the Big Ten and the Big East to get the teams together. So my guess is that this thing was formulated at the very least 2 years ago when they started talking about it. That's what I heard. It was at least 2 years ago. So I'm not sure, from a projection standpoint, that they knew 2 years ago that UConn was going to be, that far down, and that Michigan State was, going to be, not as strong as they had been in the past, but certainly not bad. So I don't know if that answers your question, but is it the teams that I would have liked to have had? No, but under the circumstances, as I said, when you put these projections out, 2 and 3 years in advance, because it takes that long to get these things put together through the government of the United States as well as Germany and through the Department of Defense, it does make for a very difficult situation. I mean, you're very seldom going to hit a clinker when you get Michigan State and North Carolina together.
Right. And
I mean, you just put the jerseys out there and you've got,
right.
2 decent teams.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's just disappointing because it's going to be very exciting for the troops, and it's always good to do good things for the troops. But if I'm a real college basketball nut who's a troop, I'm not excited about the matchup. I mean, we're talking about two teams that might not make the NCAA tournament. I mean, people will call me crazy, but if you remember, there a few years ago, there was a very talented UConn team that just made the NIT, and Michigan State always seems to qualify for the tournament, but next year they don't really have a flashy player. A lot of their stars are sophomores, juniors. They'll probably put it together, but if I'm the troops, I want something like Indiana, Kentucky. I mean, two teams that are going to be ranked in the top 3, or just there's so many teams. Maybe even Duke, who's supposed to get some new guys next year. How about North Carolina State, one of the new upcoming teams? I think a team that's a Final Four favorite for next year.
Well, again, I think you have to remember that these things are developed through college presidents, through athletic departments, and through conferences, and they don't always. I mean, their goal is to try to get the student athletes together and put them in a situation where they take them. I mean, we're talking about taking, 2 teams out of the country to a Air Force base in Germany,
right,
to play basketball. And my guess is they did it because Tom Izzo and the folks at Michigan State of the Big Ten are used to traveling. I mean, they make trips to Hawaii for the Classic over there. They've gone to Alaska. They've gone to Puerto Rico. So I mean, they have made the multiple trip situation. Same thing with UConn. So I think that what they were looking for were teams that most likely had been vetted in the past and programs that had been vetted in the past, and they wanted to get some teams over there. I'm sure that in a perfect world, you'd like to have Duke and Kentucky play each other.
Wow,
but
right.
That's not going to happen. And so I think that what they did is took what in essence is a Big East, Big Ten game and moved it over there. And while it isn't by any stretch of imagination a marquee game, I think if you're the troops, you're going to want to, college basketball is college basketball, and
right.
And even though it's not the best college basketball, it's something that you'll be able to sit back and enjoy for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and you never know. It's funny now thinking of it, Jim. Last year's Michigan State team, that was the first game of the season. They started 0-2, and I think they won 14 in a row. And as I mentioned, they ended up being fellow Big Ten champions with Ohio State. No one was expecting anything from the team last year. It was supposed to be a rebuilding year. So, we both know Izzo and Calhoun can coach. Calhoun's really going to have to show next year because, everyone transferred. Either everyone transferred, everyone went to the NBA. They really don't have a roster right now. I was just talking about it with my uncle who lives right in the Yukon area. And but you're right. It's college basketball. It's tradition. Schools are tradition. And I think the troops will appreciate that, as you mentioned, the government made the effort to, do something to make life for them a little easier.
Well, and also remember that, as I said before, it takes at least 2 years of planning to get these things together.
Right.
And so, that does have to factor into how these things come about. And so it's funny because I've had people say to me, well, geez, how come, so-and-so's playing, so-and-so in hockey, for instance, overseas. How they open, the NHL likes to open the games, with teams in, in Poland and in Germany and in England and in Switzerland and Sweden and throughout Europe during the early weeks of the NHL season. And most of the time, that's really a situation where you sit down with the owners and say, okay, are you willing to make that trip?
Yeah, no,
because,
that's true.
It's a long trip, and then you've got to go back and play. It takes at least a week. I know in baseball, from the trips to Japan for the opening of the season, that this year they did it. Actually, as many of your fans will remember, during spring training. They opened the season technically with Oakland and Seattle going to Japan and playing a 3-game series, came back, and then they went back into spring training, and then started the season regular. And they did it that way because last year, when they sent the two teams over, it took the two teams the better part of a week to get back in a schedule because they were literally almost 16 hours off of their normal
routine,
their normal day schedule, just to get back to being right physically, mentally, and able to play. So it does. You're now asking student athletes to travel, and it's a fantastic idea, and I love it.
Yeah.
But as I said before, because of the planning, sometimes you don't get the result that you hope to get.
Right, and it's interesting to note that despite it being Oakland against Seattle, two really teams who are in the cellar of the AL West, it's still sold out in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure
Ichiro, of course, plays for for Seattle, so
of course.
That's going to pack the house no matter what.
I'm sure that you never know too. You never know UConn could. You never know with those coaches. These teams could be in the top 10 in the end of the season. I don't think so. But I said the same thing about Michigan State last year, and they were probably the biggest surprise in all the country. And UConn was actually the biggest disappointment last year, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So,
well, the other possibility, Rafael, is the possibility that that they play a competitive game. They don't. Whether they're ranked 1, 2, or 25 and 27, or 215 to 227. As long as they play a competitive game, I think that's what really the fans want, the troops want. Whether it's 1 and 2 playing, I think they just want the opportunity to see college basketball played at as high a level as they can get it.
Yeah, and I'll tune into the game, so I'll be watching the game. I may be criticizing the teams, but even if it's on at 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah, I watched. I remember watching the North Carolina Michigan State game live in Israel. It was on at 3 in the morning local time, and I remember it just looked so cool on the ship. And as being a part American citizen and being there during all the wars, it's a very nice thing to help out the troops because the troops are very big sports fans, and for them to be able to watch last year Harrison Barnes and Tyler Zeller and Henson, all those guys, I'm sure that was a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. Jim, I want to move on now to the Euros, because when we have you on next week, it'll be over. We'll have a new European champion. So tonight's a big match, Spain against Portugal. The pundits are saying that Portugal has really surprised a lot of people. People were saying that Spain and the Netherlands would advance out of that group, and the Portugal were not even going to advance the knockout stages. We know what happened with the Netherlands. Ronaldo has been playing great the last 2 matches, 2 goals against the Netherlands. He's just playing lights out. He played a great match his last match. And really the question now is there enough talent on this Portugal team to get an upset against a Spanish team that's hasn't really looked that impressive throughout the tournament yet, still is kind of cruised to the semifinals. So what do you think we should be looking out for tonight on the Portuguese side of the game?
Well, I think Portugal is playing, as we say in the business, with house money. I mean, they as you say, they weren't supposed to be there. The expectations of them being there, were slim. So they have nothing to lose to play all out. It's Spain, as I said to you, I think it was last week or the week before, when we were trying to predict who was going to win. I said whoever beats Spain will take it, and I still think that to be the case. I think that Portugal will give Spain every bit of a tough matchup, because again, they can play, all out, soccer this evening and play for the result, and they've got a talented team, and they don't have to worry about making a mistake, because the expectation is they're not supposed to win. So the teams that, when you are in a tournament of any sort, and you're playing against a team that has nothing to lose, that's the worst possible scenario if you're a favorite. The expectation of this team, Portugal, and this is as we know, this is a tremendously talented team. Oh yeah. So there's every reason to believe that Portugal could steal this game away, and so Spain's going to have to play. They've kind of coasted, as you said, and I agree with you. They've kind of coasted their way through this. They can't coast tonight, because if they coast tonight, they'll lose to Portugal.
Right, and you know what? I'm actually we have an editor from Goal.com coming on after you, but I'm going to go on record and say that I think Portugal will win tonight. And the reason for that is that Spain hasn't really had anyone really to compete with.
Well, this is a test.
Yeah,
test
exactly.
If they're good,
right.
They'll be able to live up to the test.
An Italy team that's not really that good tied them, and they're really missing Villa, who's their all-time Euro leader in goals, and they're really missing Puyol in the defense. I've never seen the Spanish defense let so many guys in that area, in so close to the goal. That's something that's Puyol would never allow. Puyol is kind of Fabio Cannavaro of the 2006 team, and they're really missing him. When I heard about the knee injury, I was very concerned, and like you said, Jim, Portugal is hot right now, and in soccer, that's a very big thing. There's a lot of momentum. Cristiano Ronaldo had this season where he was compared with Messi. Messi's really struggled with his national team, really struggled, not even a little, like really struggled, and this is kind of his chance to say I'm better, because if Cristiano Ronaldo wins a EuroLeague or Euro Championship with the squad he has right now, Messi, you can argue that Cristiano Ronaldo is a better player. Some people will call me crazy, but a lot of people, the argument is you take Iniesta and Xavi Alonso and Xavi out of that lineup, and Messi's not nearly as good. He's not good on the Argentina team. The Argentina team has a lot of talented guys, the Argentina team has a lot of talented guys, but for some reason he hasn't been able to put it together. And really, Uruguay's been the champions of South America the last 4 years with Forlan and Suarez and so on and on. So I think this is a big game for Ronaldo because it's kind of a chance for him to put a stamp on his legacy because I don't think Portugal's ever won a EuroLeague. They might have won one. I need to check that. But this is something that would make him an all-time legend in the game of football, soccer, not just in Portugal, because this is a guy who back and forth, him and Messi this year, compete on the goals, and his team, in fact, won La Liga. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's exciting where Spain, I don't see the motivation, Jim. I don't see that they're hungry to win again. They've won the World Cup. They've won the Euro. No team has ever won 3 in a row. But who knows? I think it's going to be a really great match. I don't expect it to be high scoring. I think it will come down to just great defense and who can penetrate the most. And I expect Torres to make some noise because I actually like Torres. I know there's a lot of hate with him, but I think he's a guy that if people lay off his back, just let him play the game, he'll play well. So,
and you're looking at the possibility of, this is, as you say, a victory by Portugal could be worth tens of millions of dollars to the players on the Portuguese team in what they get, with clubs that they, professional deals that they get out of this Euro situation. And frankly, that's what, that has happened more often than not in the Euros that, guys have come out of there and emerged and suddenly became, I can remember when France won and Zinedine Zidane and guys like that suddenly, cashed in big paychecks. And so that whole situation, as you were talking about Ronaldo, I mean, look at the possibility of the paycheck he could cash if Portugal beats Spain and goes on to win.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the next match before I talk to you about LeBron and everything he's accomplished. And that's, I think, a way more interesting match, and that would be the Italians against Germany. It's just an interesting match, a lot of history. Both Germany is this team that's had so much talent the last 20 years and just never seems to be able to put it together. They always choke either in the semifinals or the finals. I remember in 2002 when they had Kahn, who's probably my favorite goalkeeper of all time, Oliver Kahn. They were very close, but they couldn't do it. Brazil beat them. And this year, I feel like this is their year. Their talent is the highest it's been in a long time, from defense to offense. This is probably Colose's last major tournament. He, in some regards, is I mean, you could say, argue one of the best goal scorers in major tournament history. I think he's tied with Ronaldo, maybe even has more goals the Ronaldo. Obviously not Cristiano Ronaldo, Brazil's Ronaldo.
Right.
But Italy also went through another match fixing scandal with the national team. Buffon was called in, and they said 130,000 came out of nowhere. He was cleared, but there was a lot of controversy on who would be called up. Yet, despite all this, making the semifinals, playing with a lot of confidence. Balotelli still hasn't done anything that stupid. He's still in the tournament, hasn't gotten a red card. I don't know. I want to pick Italy against Portugal in the finals. I know it's crazy, but I just haven't seen Germany or Spain just have an amazing game where I can say, wow, they really put all the pieces together. And like you said, Jim, the other teams, these two teams have nothing to lose. Making the semifinals for both squads, Portugal and Italy, is fine. I mean, if they lose, it's fine. No, I mean, obviously the fans are very passionate in Italy, but it won't be considered a disappointment. Where if Spain or Germany lose, it's a disappointment immediately. So what do you think the game plan will be for the Italians right off the bat, right when the match starts, Jim?
I think Italy's going to do what they did and have done throughout the tournament, and that's being annoying. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, they just literally, it's almost as if they were playing for penalty kicks almost halfway through the game against England. They figured, you know what, let's play defense. And let's play that picket fence situation where, we're playing pretty much halfway. Most of the team plays, on the back side of the defense, and it says, okay, look, we're not going to let you score a goal, and then we're going to counterattack. And, if we can counterattack and score a goal, fine. If we can't, we're cool with a 0-0 game, and we'll take into penalties. And that was, looked like the game plan that they had against England. I think that they will play that same annoying style to Germany, and it will be the difference between the German teams that we've seen in the past is that this German team, while as precise as the other German teams have been, does still have the ability and the flair to really score goals. They can hang, 2 or 3 goals on somebody if need be. And I do believe that that's something that Italy can't do. Italy's not going to be able to beat you 2-0 or 3-0 or something like that. They're not going to. They can't get into a shootout. They can't get into they're really a 1-goal, 2-goal team at best. And I think if I'm Germany, I want to get that. I want the first goal. I want that first goal, and I want to get it as fast as humanly possible, and not allow Italy to play back, force Italy to come after me. And so if I'm Germany, my goal, no pun intended, to win is to quickly get that goal. I want the goal in the first 20-25 minutes of the first half.
Right. And Jim, I wish we had more time to talk about, but we have 5 minutes, and this guy named LeBron James, I think he won a championship. So I think Ari wants to discuss that with you.
Yeah, well, basically, Jim, people kept saying or were concerned if he was ever going to win one, and I think the other question is how many will he win? He's 28 years old. Probably the problem in his basketball career, I think the best basketball LeBron has played hasn't been played yet. I think the best is yet to come, and they won this title with Dwayne Wade dealing with a lot of personal issues, not playing his best, Chris Bosh injured, not a deep bench. They won anyway. So let's talk about the odds, the chances of a dynasty, and also the chances that we see the Thunder again back in the finals playing the Heat next season.
I think there's a very good chance that you'll see the Thunder back. I mean, there's no reason to believe they're going to get bad. I mean, they learn. I think they learned a lot. They're kind of like what happened in Miami the year before. I mean, they went to the tournament. I mean, they went to into the NBA finals, thinking that they had a good chance to win, and they didn't like how it ended. So that's the best opportunity is to look at it and say, okay, I didn't we should have beat them, could have beat them, and away they go. So they've got the chip on their shoulder this time, and now you've got a Miami Heat team. Now I do believe that with LeBron James, I mean, dynasties are, I guess, what you want to. Can they win 3 titles in a row? There's no reason at this point to say they can't. I mean, because certainly there's not. Who's going to challenge them in the East? I mean, there really isn't a team in the East that has the ability. Chicago, but that's only if Rose comes back and can play anywhere near the capability that he did. But there really isn't a team that can challenge them in the East at this point in time. So they're pretty much they can cruise through the East and just pretty much wait till they get around to the playoffs. So at this juncture, can they win 3 in a row? Yeah, I think they can. And the key to LeBron is the key to every great athlete that's ever played. Will they be able to stay healthy? And he's been healthy his entire career thus far, and you can only hope that some of the back spasms and issues that he's had this past year are just simply that, spasms and nothing, to be too concerned about.
Absolutely. I mean, that would be the worst if the injuries had an effect on all this. All right, Jim, we have to run. It was a lot of fun having you here on Louis Live at Israel Sports Radio. Enjoy the Euro, and we will talk to you next week.
Hey, can I ask you guys both one quick question?
Sure. You want to ask me and Raphael a question? No problem. Go ahead.
One real quick one. All right.
Sure.
Guys, you're picking number 3 tonight for the Washington Wizards. You're the general manager. Who do you take for the Washington Wizards in the NBA draft tomorrow night.
Ooh.
I know. I have the answer, Jim. I have the answer, and I can tell you why. You have to take Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Most talented player in the draft. I said, in my opinion,
over Davis.
Over Davis. Davis could end up not being able to score at all in the NBA. I mean, he struggled with that in Kentucky, and Davis kind of reminds me of a Hasheem Thabit, and that kind of worries me because Hasheem Thabit never made it in the NBA. Davis is not really a scorer. That's something that he's going to have to work on with the New Orleans coaching staff. Where Barnes is, I don't think people understand how this guy is a guy who's going to be able to score 30 points a night in the NBA at some point in his career. And I don't know. What do you think, Jim? Who do you like?
Well, one of the guys, of course, we were talking about the kid out of Florida, the guard.
Right, Bradley Beal.
I'm sorry?
Bradley Beal.
Yeah, Beal. Jay Billis and I was talking. Beal looked like a pretty good fit. Harrison Barnes obviously is a good fit. There's a few guys there, but if you want instant scoring, I would have to say that you guys are probably spot on with Harrison Barnes, and we'll see.
Right.
We will see. It'll be fun to see how it plays out tomorrow night. And there's a lot of good players in the draft, but not a lot of great players. And as we know, the NBA draft is only 2 rounds.
Right.
So everybody else becomes instant free agents after that. So
right, and
there'll be a lot of people headed your way to play in Europe next year. Well, look, I know you're up against the clock, so I'm going to let you go, guys.
All right, Jim.
Always a pleasure, and thanks for the input.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Be well, Jim.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to take a break, and it's some soccer talk on the other side of this commercial.
Zachary Rigg from Goal.com, probably the best, in my opinion, the best soccer source of news in the world. They have.
Zachary Rigg after this. It's Louis Live in Israel, sportsradio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Ari Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom. DJ Venom. DJ Venom. DJing parties throughout Israel. Birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music, and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. Raphael and Moshe here for about what's up, Moshe?
Hey, man, how you doing? Long time no see.
Long time no see. About a 15 to 17 to maybe 20, depending on our next guest segment with Zachary Rigg from Goal.com. We had him on 2 weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. He agreed to come back on. Goal.com, as I mentioned, Ari, probably the best soccer news source on the internet. There's a couple other ones that maybe compete. We've had Football.com chief editor Nicholas Webster on. We've had a couple other places, but Goal.com is awesome. I know that Moshe and I get our news from there because Yahoo and ESPN
don't have much soccer.
Just don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's be honest. It's not the best place. So we are going to dial up Zachary Rigg, who we're not sure where he is in the world right now because he's based out of Malaysia and China and all these countries. So we're connecting with him on Skype, and we're very excited to have him on. And we're going to start off with some news across Europe and maybe get to the Euro. How am I speaking with Zachary Rigg?
Hello. Yes, you are.
Hi, Zach. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Good to be back with you guys.
Yeah, it's great. And, we just actually had a Euro segment with a reporter out of D.C., so we kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about some news going around in the domestic leagues and big news in Israel and big news in London. And shocking news, in my opinion, Gareth Bale agreeing to sign with the Spurs despite all the stuff that's gone on there, despite failing to qualify for the Champions League. I think his quote was he wants to get the Spurs back to where they belong. I've been saying on the show for the last 2 weeks that as soon as Harry was gone, I was terrified that this was it for Gareth and he was out. But 4 years, he could have gone rumors to really wherever he wanted, Barca, Real, anywhere he wanted to go, someone would have picked him up. But so what do you think of this? Are you impressed? What are your thoughts on him deciding to stay in London?
I mean, whenever someone signs a new contract, there's always talk of them staying somewhere for 4 years or they're going to move to this club for 4 years. And that's very rarely the case.
Sure.
A lot of times, this is an interesting deal, and I'm not sure Bale's motivation for it. But a lot of times, contracts can be to get a bigger signing fee for the club if they came through there. Or he could just really like Tottenham and want to succeed there. It is interesting that he signed before the manager came in, and I suppose that just shows that he definitely wants to stay there at least next season because he's already more expensive than he's probably worth right now. Right.
No, you're right, and I mean. In football, a player could do that, and then next year he could be gone. But I honestly, I know in Jerusalem, if you're from England, you're from North London, where all the Jews are, and everyone's a Tottenham supporter. So that's really the team that we follow the most here. And I've talked to diehard fans, and they said no way he's coming back, no way, not possible. So it's going to be very exciting for me to talk to those supporters and ask, why do you think he came back? Of course, you gave your reasons. I want to move on now and talk about Cavani, who's, of course, gained a lot of attention, played for Napoli this year. They had a pretty good year. Apparently, they're refusing to sell him to Man City. Man City wants him bad, and, he had a great year in Italy, 25 years old, so his prime is ahead of him. And what do you think this is about? Is this a money issue? How is City going to get him, or do you think he's going to end up staying in Italy?
Napoli's in the process of trying to become a big club again.
Right.
And they have an enigmatic owner who has some money, and also a fairly foul mouth. So the best kind of owner, really. And it's not just Manchester City who wants him. Juventus is very interested, and several other clubs in Italy would very much like him. But I'm not convinced that Napoli wants to sell him to anyone. I think Napoli sees themselves as contenders, as they showed against Chelsea in the Champions League. This team can push anyone on a given day. And I think they see Cavani as a huge part of that. Honestly, the person likely to leave is Lavezzi, who Paris Saint-Germain have offered ridiculous money for. So I think if they do lose one of their superstars, they're not going to part with another one. And this might just be clubs think they can bully Napoli because they haven't done much in the last couple of decades, but they're going to find that this is a tough nut, and they might be stuck with having to look elsewhere.
Right, and of course, the last time they were relevant in the football world, I believe, was in the Maradona days when they were really, I believe they won in '89 or around that time, middle of the '80s. I'm sure you know that better than
late
me.
'80s to early '90s was when Napoli was last good. They've actually since been relegated down to the 4th division and were disbanded.
Wow.
Had to start again as a different club because of bankruptcy, and they've been rebuilt since then back to a fairly formidable team in Italy.
Yeah, no, I think they played in the Champions League this year. They have great players. The Italian league this year, Serie A, was an interesting league to say the least. A lot of we got to watch the matches in Israel a lot, so I got to watch a lot of teams, and it's always different in Italy than in all the other leagues. They play very defensive style, not attacking, and it was just weird to see. There were a lot of stadiums this year empty, a lot of big stadiums empty. I don't know if that's with all the economic problems going on in Europe, but you'd watch just, Roma. There were times when I watched Roma playing and the stadium was 40% empty. So weird time there. Next, I wanted to move on and talk about one of my favorite players, Nesta, who rumors are that his career is done in AC Milan, the MLS. Apparently, he can't. I think he said to one of your reporters on Goal.com, if I read correctly, that he hasn't gotten any offers from MLS. He's interested in the MLS. There's rumors that he might get one more deal with Milan. I mean, he's 36 years old, I believe. I think he can play in the MLS. I'd love to see him in the MLS. What do you think is next with him? Is it time for him to hang up the cleats, or do you think he has another year left in the United States or maybe in Italy?
He did talk to a Goal.com reporter down in Miami, and it was very interesting. He said that the MLS that there was no offer there, and that he was thinking about just going and playing on the beach. Now, I'm not sure if that meant that MLS hadn't made an offer or that he got a lowball offer.
Right.
MLS's general strategy is that they will pay premium money for elite stars that they can market, such as Beckham, Andre, Marquez, those sort of players. When you come to a guy like Nesta, who was an absolute world great, one of the all-time great defenders, but perhaps not a huge marketing drive in America, they might have offered something a little bit lower, around the $1.5 million deal. And I think Nesta's looking at that and wondering why he's making less than a guy like Henry, who's probably no better than him throughout his career. And he's looking at that and saying, you know what? I'll just go play on the beach.
Yeah, no, that was a really that was the last sentence, I think, of the Goal.com article, and I was just kind of, okay, I guess he's going to go play on the beach. So we'll see what happens there. He's a guy who I was just always respected and really enjoyed watching. And it seems that a lot of these guys, our next question is another guy in this generation, are just starting to retire and die out. So I'm going to introduce my co-host today for the show, Moshe, and he's going to talk to you about Michael Owen and his future plans. Take it away, Moshe.
Yeah, Michael Owen, I've heard, is rumored to go maybe to West Ham, but also I've heard rumors about him going to the MLS. What's the deal with that?
Michael Owen has always indicated that he doesn't want to move down any levels. He wants to stay at the top couple teams. So it'll be very interesting if he does have to take a step down into the championship. There were rumors linking him with Qatar recently, which I'm not sure how accurate those were. And of course, there's always the MLS links. I'm not sure where Michael Owen's going to end up. He spent a lot of time sitting on the bench doing nothing for many seasons.
Right.
It's been a while since he's been an active first team player.
Right.
And I'm not sure how eager clubs are going to be to hand him a big contract if he's unable to perform over the course of a season. I mean, he's played just absolutely sparse minutes, just a game here and a game there for many seasons.
Right, he was on Man U for a while. The thing, though, is that when he did play I forget what season it was. I think it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was whatever it was. When he did get a chance to play for Man U, he would score, it seems like. I think he had 4 or 5 goals in all the appearances he made. But you're right, he was on the bench for a long time. Speaking of the English team, I forgot about this, and I wanted to ask you. Rio Ferdinand made kind of a controversial comment on Twitter saying, I forget exactly what the quote was, but it was something along the lines of, I'm trying to think of what it was. The point is, he was saying, why isn't Paul Scholes playing on the English team? Do you think is he just bitter about not being called up, or what was up with that tweet by Ferdinand?
Ferdinand is also, he suggested that his Manchester United teammates, Phil Jones,
right,
and the other one should have played more during the Euros. I think in one part of it is just trying to back his teammates and maybe separate them a little bit from England's campaign. But also, I mean, you train with these guys every day and you see how good they are, and you don't understand why others don't appreciate that sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. My theory is he's still a bit bitter about what happened, but I'm
sure he's not very happy about it.
Right, and I still don't really understand that. But I mean, Hodgson did lead them to the knockout stage, and they did have, I guess you could say, competitive match against Italy. So it wasn't as if they failed in the group stage. And I wanted to ask you, we've asked you now 3 questions about these guys going to the MLS, and are we ever going to see, Zach, when a player is 26 and he's going to say, you know what, I don't want to sign with Villarreal, I don't want to sign with Juventus or Marseille, or one of these, not maybe top teams in the world, but one of the, not the top 4 teams, but still a powerhouse. He's going to say, I don't want to go there. I want to go to the Impact. I want to go to the Galaxy. Is that going to happen in our lifetime? Is that going to happen in 20 years, in 50 years? Is that ever going to be possible?
I think so. MLS is trying right now to keep players longer in their careers and to get players earlier at the end of their careers, and so that they meet in the middle there. MLS executives seem to think that 20 years is a good time frame for the league to be relatively competitive.
Right.
And we're seeing some guys come at maybe not 26, but a little bit later than that. Not your huge stars, but maybe your championship level player, or in the other leagues around Europe, where they could pick MLS for personal reasons that they'd want to live in the United States.
Right.
And I think MLS will continue to grow. It's difficult to predict something like that and how long that will take because there are so many mitigating factors. But I think in the next several decades, we could see more players choosing MLS as a place to play competitively.
Yeah, and yesterday we had a guest from I'm blanking on. I think it was some sort of soccer media outlet, and we were talking about the Cosmos. I was doing my research. I read a lot about it, and of course, everyone in Israel knows the Cosmos because one of our all-time greats played for the Cosmos during the Pele era. And now Pele is their honorary president. Kobe Jones is working there, all-time U.S. great. The issue right now is money. The Impact, I believe, only had to pay $45 million. Now rumors are that Cosmo will have to pay $100 million. But I mean, do you have any inside scoop? Do you see the Cosmos joining the MLS next season? And if they do, could this bring excitement back? Because people will say, "Oh, the Cosmos! Remember when they were one of the best teams in the world and this all-star team, and et cetera, et cetera." Do you think that it's going to work in that way that they're hoping?
I'm not convinced it's going to be the Cosmos. Their ownership group had some problems. The people who sort of reignited it and brought back Pele as an honorary member, and Cantona and Kobe Jones, all those people, they didn't have enough money, and they had to sell it to I believe an Arabian group who now owns the rights to the Cosmos. What MLS has done is they've just sort of disregarded who's bidding. They've decided that they want New York to be the next team, and they just found a location, I believe, in Queens, where they want to build a stadium. This was all in the Financial Times, I believe. And so they found a stadium, and they want to build that, and then they will just go out and have a bidding war for that next club. I don't know if it'll be the Cosmos, if they'll have their act together in time. The Cosmos would be by far the most popular brand searching to be that next team.
Right.
I'm not convinced that they will, but I do think a team in New York is the priority for MLS, looking for its 20th club.
Okay, yeah, interesting. And of course, the league has grown. I'm trying to think of who we had on yesterday. It's bugging me. It was an MLS person. Oh, we had on Nick Farley from I believe Nick Farley from NBC Sports. Does that sound right to you? He was Nick.
Yes.
Richard Farley. My apologies. And
he was formerly the editor of Fox Soccer, I believe.
Right, and he was great. We were talking about that. Okay, sorry, I just had a mind blank there. And I wanted to ask you.
I like him.
Yeah, he was really nice. And, we've had a great soccer segment so far, and we haven't mentioned the Euros, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to keep with that because we already got your predictions last time. And I want to ask you the Olympics. I'm pretty excited about it. There is a soccer tournament. A lot of people forget about it. I love watching it because you get to see the youth. You get to see – I'm a huge African fan. I spent a year in Senegal. My father works in the area, so I'm a very, very big supporter of Western Africa football, Ghana, Guinea, Senegal, et cetera, and on and on. So I love watching the African guys in these tournaments. I think they play with so much heart, and they're also playing because they know that they might get signed based off their performance, and a lot of them come from places with not a lot of money, so it means more to them. Ghana was really they had one of the best U21 teams in the last few years. Who do you think is going to be really impressive in this upcoming Olympics?
The one team making noise is Brazil. They've never won an Olympic gold, despite dominating the World Cup and most other competitions, Copa America, and they're determined that they need to win the Olympics, and so it's become a huge deal for that country, perhaps far bigger than for any other country. In this area of the world, Mexico is the interesting team because we're so close and we see all these guys in the Mexican leagues. And they're a really fun, bright attacking team. And the hope is that they could go far, but it's so difficult to tell with these U23 competitions, especially with the three older guys thrown in, because you can never tell how the team's going to gel. And youth tournaments don't usually predict how well a full national team will do later on. They seem to be one-offs, and it's such as the Netherlands has won a couple of these youth tournaments lately, and then, well, you saw how they did now.
Yeah, and I think still though it's an exciting thing. Is Neymar going to play for Brazil? Is he going to be a participant on the Olympic team? I haven't I don't know that.
I don't believe Brazil's done an interesting thing. I don't believe they released their final roster, but about a year ago they released like a 75-man roster, and then they slowly will have press releases where they've cut it down. I think they're down to 35 right now, last I checked.
Okay.
And Ronaldinho just got cut in the last one, which was the big news.
I
believe Neymar is still on the list, but it's not confirmed that he will go to the Olympics.
Okay, and I think it'll be very fun, and of course, the semifinals. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but we'd love to have you on again. It's always a lot of fun, Zach, and we appreciate your time. And we'll be in touch about you coming on again if you're interested.
All right, thanks. Always good to talk to you guys.
All right, thanks, Zach. Have a good day.
All right, bye.
Bye. That was Zach Lee Rigg from Goal.com, and now this is a pretty special interview for Israel Sports Radio because it's pretty random, and we love that. We've had a lot of weird things, and yes, Moshe, tell us a little bit about our guest before we give him a call.
All right, so I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Bradley Chalupsky is a skeleton slider for the.
You heard that, folks. Skeleton
slider, not a rider,
not a rider.
Slider. So he
like that TV show. Did anyone watch that TV show in the '90s? Ari, do you ever watch Sliders?
No, I didn't.
No, okay, Ari didn't watch it. With Jerry O'Connell? Anyone?
No.
Right.
You're alone on this one. Sorry, man.
I'm alone on this one. Okay.
So anyway, he's one of the few members of the Israeli bobsleigh and skeleton team. He's attempting to compete in the Olympics for Israel.
That's awesome.
He's actually American. He's only been to Israel a few times. He went to University of Maryland.
While you're repping the hat, you'll have to tell him that.
Yeah, so it should be a good interview.
Okay, we're going to dial him up right now, have him on for about 12 minutes via Skype. We're going to call him Bradley because his last name is hard to pronounce. And, we're very excited to have him on. We're glad he reached out to us, and it's really cool to see all the sports developing in the Holy Land. Hi, am I speaking with Bradley?
Hi.
Bradley, you're on Lewis Live right now on Israel Sports Radio. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to tell you, when we got in touch with you about having you come on, at first I thought it was a scam. I couldn't believe I couldn't believe it. And then I did more research, and we got on your website, and we were like, oh, okay, this guy's not just making it up. And it's a great story, and it's great for Israel. We've had on. I know this isn't similar, but in my mind it is. You'll have to understand. We've had on the Israel Hockey Federation before, so it's really exciting for us to have on someone from, and tell me if I'm saying this right, the Israeli Federation of Skeleton and Bobsled. What's the official title?
It's the Israeli Bobsled and Skeleton Federation.
Okay.
Is how it's known internationally.
Okay, awesome. I want to introduce my co-host who's actually done a lot of prep for this interview, and will be asking you more specifically about the sport, your goals, representing Israel, making Aliyah. Just so you know, he's rocking a Maryland hat right now. We know you went there.
Did indeed.
So, Moshe, take it away, my man.
All right. So, an interesting story out there, folks, with skeleton from Israel. So before we get into the Israel side of things, how did you get involved in the sport to begin with? It's not exactly the most popular sport in America.
Well, it's honestly, the short version is that I saw it on the TV in my apartment in Allegheny Hall on the campus of the University of Maryland my senior year, and said, that looks like a ton of fun, and I bet I can be pretty good at that. And then through a series of trials and tribulations, here I am on the radio with you today.
Wow, that's a crazy story. So how long have you been training for?
This is going to be my sixth season, I believe. 6th or 7th? I think it's 6. I lose count after a while, But,
yeah, wow.
So I started, I guess, my senior year, so I was 21, and now I'm 28. So it's going to be my 6th season, I think.
Wow, this is actually very impressive. I saw that you qualified for the World Championships, I think, last year, and finished 29th. So that's quite impressive for only just starting against other teams who've been playing for since they've been born, practically, kind of like hockey in Canada.
It's definitely been a great experience for me personally as an athlete to come to a world championship and be able to compete against the best in the world in anything is a huge honor. And so to be able to go there and represent myself and Israel in a world championship in a sport is just an incredible feeling and an incredible journey. And I'm thankful every day that I get to do it. It's really been a blessing in my life. So for sure. But I don't know if I don't want to cut any of your questions off. So, but also this past season, we also qualified for the World Cup, which is actually
huge.
Which is actually a kind of a bigger deal than the World Championships, because the World Championships are, I mean, I don't want to say their participation, but their participation in the sense that if you've raced on a certain number of tracks within a certain number of years, you're eligible to go. But to be on the World Cup circuit, you have to qualify points-wise. And so for us to qualify for the World Cup was really a huge, huge deal for Israel and for our team and for me. And it's something we're exceedingly proud of, to be sure.
All right, so a little bit of a background question. What sports did you play growing up and throughout college that helped you prep to become a skeleton athlete?
Well, you'd be surprised. I'm actually only 5'4", and I weigh about $180 when I'm at my fighting weight, as I say it. But it's all muscle, obviously. I was a wrestler in high school. I went to Marlboro High School in Marlboro, New Jersey, and I played ball also in Marlboro as a catcher. And then in college, I really didn't do anything athletic. I was actually in the marching band for 3 years and the pep band for 4 years, and did some club and intramural things here and there, but hadn't really done anything with my athleticism after high school until skeleton came around.
Okay. And where did you get the idea from to compete for Israel? I saw that you've only been to Israel a few times. I think you'd only been once before you started competing for Israel in skeleton. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I came up through the American program. And then, again, long story short, I was the first guy off the U.S. national team, which is different than the Olympic team. There are 12 people on the national team, 2 on the Olympic team, or 3 some years on the Olympic team. I missed the U.S. team by 0.2 of a second over 4 miles of racing. And then I was approached by the Israeli Federation because they had heard that I was Jewish. And a lot of people always wonder how you can compete for a country that you're not national of. And it's actually a little-known quirk in the international sporting system, which I didn't know either until I had reason to learn it, which is that each country can actually decide who represents them in every competition except the Olympics. The Olympic Games, you must have the nationality of the country that you're representing. For every other competition, it's actually up to the country who can represent them. And Israel, because of its unique standing as the Jewish state, allows not only Israelis, but anyone who's eligible to make aliyah vis-a-vis the law of return to compete for Israel as well. So I was approached by the Israelis when they heard I was Jewish and that I was competent in the sport, and ultimately accepted. So that was how I came to compete for Israel, despite actually, when I started, I had never been to Israel, actually.
Wow. So actually, that rule is going to be helping Israel in another sport in baseball for the World Baseball Classic, actually. So I've been learning a little bit more about that. But if you get to the Olympics, if you get the chance to compete in the Olympics, will you then be making Aliyah?
I actually have made Aliyah. I'm sitting on the steps in the Jerusalem bus station right now.
Oh, Mazal Tov. Wow, okay.
So, made Aliyah a month ago. I was fortunate enough to find a job really quickly because I'm lucky like that, I guess. And so I've been working for about 4 weeks. I've been here for about 5 weeks and have an apartment in Jerusalem in Talpiot, right on the border between Vaca and Talpiot. And I live there with my girlfriend, and life is good.
Wow, that sounds great. Obviously, Israel is a warm weather country, so what sort of training are you able to get done around here?
Well, that's actually a huge misconception people have because there's no ice anywhere that skeleton goes on anywhere now. So being here is just as good as being in Vancouver. We do dry land sprint training basically during the summer, and we just try to get faster because you have to push your sled at the beginning, as I'm sure you've seen if you've looked into the sport. So really it's all about your start, we call it, the push, because it's gravity sport. So you're starting from zero, and the faster you accelerate, not only is it less time, literally, as you're running, but it also increases your momentum exponentially down the entire track. So that's really the most important thing that we do over the summer is a lot of sprint training. Just sprinting.
Wow, very nice. When you tell people that you are competing for Israel, or whether it's at one of these events or just randomly, what sort of reaction do you get?
People are usually confused at first, I think. They go, what? What's that? And, huh? And I have to explain it to them. And then they go, you're insane. And then I laugh. And, so people, the usual, I guess. People are excited. If they're Jewish and passionate about Israel, they're excited. And they're worried for my personal safety, which is appreciated. And they're just surprised and think it's really cool. Some people ask me how they can try it. Some people tell me they don't even want to watch it. You get the whole range, but usually positive.
Okay. So as I mentioned before, Israel is a warm country, so I know that there are different qualification standards when it comes to the Olympics. So can you explain to us exactly what you're going to have to do to qualify for Israel for the Olympics?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Right now, we're not really sure. My federation has, because I'm the first person to really have this, really have an opportunity at pulling this off, so to speak. Our federation doesn't have standards from the Israeli Olympic Committee as to what exactly we need to do to qualify. Because not only do you need to qualify internationally, but your country has to let you go.
Right.
Which is also something that a lot of people kind of don't really think of, because by and large, most countries will just sign off. If you've qualified via the international standards, they are happy to send you. Israel has a higher standard, and they have been known to refuse athletes to go. They have qualified. So actually, when I was talking with the Israeli Federation before I agreed, that was one of the things that was presented to me up front. Even if I qualify, I might not get to go. So in terms of international standards, it changes every Olympic year, obviously, but usually you have to be in the top 50 or top 60 in the world to be eligible. And then there's a system of seeding people, because especially in a sport like skeleton, which is dominated by Canada, Germany, Russia, there might be, no exaggeration, 8, 9 Canadians that are ranked higher in the world than I am. But they're obviously not going to send 9 Canadians to the Olympics. So there's a system by which they give quotas for different countries, and all that changes. So we won't know exactly where that's going to be placed by the FIBT, which is the International Bobsled and Skeleton Federation, or the International Olympic Committee, what they'll have to say about it. So I'm not really sure. And that could be obviously scary and frustrating, but at the same time, it's a little liberating in the sense that I go out there and I compete for my country, my people, myself, and I don't really worry about it. I just try to do the best that I can every competition that I go out there, and so in a sense it can be a little liberating because I don't have a target. Hopefully I'll get one, but right now I don't, so I don't really waste my time thinking about it. I just try to do the best I can each time.
Okay, thank you very much. We want to thank you for coming on Louis Live today. We'll be following your career as the Jewish version of Cool Runnings. So we hope to have you on in the future, and thank you very much.
Yeah, can I give my website out real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, my website is www.israelibobsled, ISRAELIBOBSLED.com. and you can go there, check it out. Things are a little down, obviously, during the winter in terms of updates, or during the summer in terms of updates, because we're not actively competing. But you can see some pictures, some cool blogs that I've done, other articles that have been written on me. I have a Twitter account, and also, if you want, we're always accepting donations, because it is an amateur sport. So we always need money to compete. We feel like we have a worthy cause, and so we hope you can consider it. But IsraeliBobsled.com, if you get a chance, check it out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bradley. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right, interesting interview there. That's how we do it at Louis Live. Very excited now to have on Bill Rowland from 106.7 The Fan DC. I know you're from that area, Moshe, so you've probably maybe heard Bill Rowland before. He's the play-by-play guy for George Mason. I'm going to start off and talk to him about the draft because that's my specialty, and then Moshe will talk to him about
Hockey,
because that's not my specialty. So we're going to dial him up. A really good guy. Had him on one time alone when Ari was out of the studio, and he was a great guy. We had a lot of fun. So we're going to have him on today. And then tomorrow, Ari will tell you at the end of the show who's coming on tomorrow. Probably one of our best lineups in a long time here at Louis Live. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Dialing up Mr. Rowland, Bill Rowland from The Fan in Washington, D.C. And future's looking bright for the Wizards. We're going to talk about that.
Hello?
Hi, am I speaking with Bill Rowland?
This is. Hey, Raphael, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
And I was just telling our listeners that I feel very, very confident that the Wizards' future is getting better and better as the days go by. We just had Jim Williams on, of course, as well from the D.C. area. And I was telling him that if your Wizards don't take my man Harrison Barnes at number 3, it's going to be the biggest decision they ever. I mean, they have to take him. I know there's rumors on Bradley Beal and Kid Gilchrist, but Harrison Barnes is a guy who I love him. I've been watching him and scouting him, and this guy I think could be a 23, 24 points a game guy in the NBA. He's a monster, 6'8". He needs to get bigger. But the trade, I want to ask you about the Emeka Okafor trade that puts Nene and Emeka Okafor down low with John Wall. I mean, suddenly things look so exciting for the Wizards. It seems that Ernie Grunfeld has made some good decisions. What are your thoughts on everything that's been going on with the Wizards in the last, 4 or 5 days?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the trade first, and it's interesting because a lot of people on face value, when you looked at it, obviously it makes them better than they were prior to the trade. Obviously, Rashard Lewis wasn't giving them anything. They're going to get production from Trevor Ariza. They're going to get production from Emeka Okafor. And as you said, it moves, Nene over a little bit. Okafor will play center. Nene will play the 4 spot. The problem that I have with the trade, and we'll find out if it ends up being a real issue or not, is this was going to be Rashard Lewis's last year with the Wizards. Whether they paid him $13 million and told him to go away before July 1st, which is what Charlotte's going to do, New Orleans is going to do, or if they let him play out the entire season, his contract was coming off the books after this year, one way or the other. These two guys they traded for, they're now on the hook for $42 million over the next 2 years. So basically they've taken them out of any chance of getting any free agent that hits the market, not only this summer, but also next summer as well. So that's my only real concern with the trade, is it kind of handcuffed them as far as the salary cap goes. I know they did it to appease John Wall, and it'll probably lead to a few more wins, but I'm not sure Okafor and Ariza paired up with whoever they draft on Thursday is suddenly going to make this a 45-win team. That's my only concern, is they've really hamstrung themselves the next 2 seasons as far as free agents and being able to go out and get them.
Right, but, what was it, a few years ago, Trevor Ariza was, like, the man when he signed with the Hornets for that contract. He was one of the was coming off the championship with the Lakers, and everyone wanted him. And, yeah, you're right. It seems that it kind of after that, everything went downhill for him. He hasn't been – I think he was on the Rockets, or I don't really remember. But it's – yeah, I think, though, that as you mentioned, they did this obviously for Wall, and now Wall can't say they didn't do anything. They have – I think Emeka Okafor has been an all-star. he's definitely had the numbers of an all-star before. Number 2 pick in I think 03, 04.
Yeah, it's been a while. Here's Okafor. The problem that a lot of people look at it, and you're a sensible guy. You say, hey, look, his numbers are all-star. Like, he's averaged the double-double in his career.
Right.
That's fantastic. There are very few guys that do that. But people look at it, like you said, that he was a number 2 overall pick, and for whatever reason, some people want to label him a bust. I don't label him a bust at all, but for all the hype that the number 2 pick always carries with it, I mean, he hasn't been that, difference-making, franchise-changing type guy. He's just been what he is. Very solid center. He's going to have a 10, 12, 15-year career in the NBA, and when he hangs it up, there are going to be, people out there that look at it and go, oh my gosh, I never knew Emeka Okafor put up those kind of numbers. One, because he hasn't been on very good teams a lot throughout his career, and 2, he hasn't been flashy. He hasn't had that 22, 24 points, 10, 11 rebound type seasons that you'd think a number 2 pick would have. But he's very solid. Ariza, they went defense. Okafor plays great defense. Ariza's a defensive stopper as well. But if you think back to that Lakers championship, and I had a conversation with one of our guys at the station, and I said, the one thing I always remember about Ariza when the Lakers were making that playoff run when he won the title with them is every time he took an ill-advised shot, which seemed to be a lot, Kobe Bryant gave him the stare that we all are used to seeing Kobe Bryant have. So shot selection is an issue with Ariza, but they're definitely better defensively by making this move, and that has to be exciting for them.
Right, it's funny. While you were making, kind of talking about Emeka Okafor, the first guy that just immediately jumped to my head is Aubrey Huff. I know that may be random and weird, but he's a guy who's had years where he's had 30 home runs, 25 home runs, 100 RBIs, and yet no one really knows that much about him. He helped the Giants win the World Series in 2010. Of course, this year has been struggling with anxiety and depression and has been on the DL. But yes, I mean, I want to get your thoughts, and I want to get the thoughts of your listeners in the D.C. area. What do the fans want? Who do the Wizards want to draft? Who do the fans want the Wizards to draft? I mean, as I mentioned, Kid Gilchrist, Bradley Beal, Harrison Barnes. There's a lot of options at the 3 pick. So what have you been hearing on your show?
Well, I think what a lot of people were looking at before they made this trade for Ariza and Okafor, there were a lot of folks, because the Wizards were so bad defensively, that were all about taking Kid Gilchrist because, as we talked about a couple weeks ago when you and I last talked, he's probably the most ready when it comes to playing defense at the NBA level of any of the guards in the draft. He's better defensively than Beal. He's better defensively than Deion Waiters. He's better defensively than Harrison Barnes. He's just got it. But he doesn't have any kind of offensive game that translates quite yet to the NBA. So now that they've got Ariza and Okafor, a lot of people are saying, okay, we need somebody that can score. So now I think the camps are divided between Bradley Beal, who is probably one of the best pure shooters in this draft, and then Harrison Barnes. I'm with you. I'd much rather have Harrison Barnes because at 6'8", if he adds a little bit of bulk, he'll be able to guard the 3, and even if they went small, he might be able to handle some of the 4s in the league, and he becomes a nightmare matchup if they go big and they play him at the 2. Beal is probably 6'3", 6'4". I've seen him listed at 6'5", but he even said himself the other day that he measured out at like 6'3.5", 6'4", so he's not as big as everybody thinks. And he's even said he thinks he's too small to be just a shooting guard in the NBA, that he needs to become like a combo guard in the NBA. So to me, that already raises a red flag when the guy you're going to draft to play the 2 is already saying, yeah, you know what, I need to be a combo guard. I'm not sure I can play the 2 full-time in the NBA. I like for them to take Barnes. I think all the whispers are that it's going to be Bradley Beal. And Barnes may not even be there because I've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it as well, the stories out there that maybe Charlotte is big on Harrison Barnes now, which would be a real dilemma if Thomas Robinson is sitting there at 3 as well. The Wizards have a ton of bigs, but Robinson's a local guy. There'll be a lot of pressure from the fans to want to bring a local kid back home.
Right, yeah, that's true. And I just think with Barnes, you look at his career in UNC, I think there was too much pressure on him, too much hype. But when the guy when he played his best basketball, he was really unstoppable. As you said, 6'8". He's just small. His arms aren't that big. If you look at him, you wouldn't think he was 6'8" just because he's not that big. but he's still young. He's 19, 20 years old. He can score. I mean, I think that if he's given – I see him and John Wall and Emeka Okafor and Nene and Ariza, and that's not a bad starting five. I mean, that you look at the starting five last year and you think of it what it could be next year, especially in the Eastern Conference. We all know you can make the playoffs with a 40 wins easily, under 500 record. And Randy Whitman, former Hoosier, I got my ties to Indiana. I like Randy Whitman. Didn't really do much in Minnesota, but I don't think anyone really did much. I mean, legendary Kevin McHale couldn't do anything in Minnesota, so I don't think we can necessarily blame Randy for that. He didn't really have much talent. So I think it's going to be very exciting to see what the Wizards do. The draft will be on here at 3 a.m. local time, and you bet I'll be watching.
You guys are staying up late night for that, then.
Oh yeah. We will. That's how we do it. It was the finals. Every time the Thunder played, the game didn't start till 4 a.m., so we'd be up with the birds chirping in the fourth quarter. But that's dedication, and that's how we do it. And I want to introduce you to a new co-host today who's going to talk to you more about the Capitals, because that is not my expertise. So here's Moshe, and apparently the Capitals have a new coach, so take it away.
Yeah, the Capitals got a new coach, Adam Oates. Of course, lifetime Capitals fans like myself will recognize him from past years as center and captain of the squad right after Dale Hunter actually was captain. So that's a kind of interesting side story over there. So can you tell us a little bit what went into his signing as the coach? He seemed to kind of come out of left field. Wasn't exactly the first guy that everyone was thinking of. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah, no problem. It was interesting because, as you said, it came a little bit out of left field. As far as if you looked at the guys that they were talking about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. In the last week, it had really come down to Adam Oates and a couple other guys that I think by the time the draft rolled around, which was last Friday, the first round, people kind of had an inkling that Oates was going to be one of the final two guys. It's a nice get for them. Alex Ovechkin on record, and he's still kind of taking shots as Dale Hunter, leaves and goes back to Ottawa to have his junior team. And Ovechkin said, great with Adam Oates. He was a center. We're not going to be lying on the ice blocking shots. We're going to be trying to score down at the other end. So Ovechkin seems to be on board with it. That's important for the Caps. But yeah, as you mentioned, Adam Oates played parts of 6 seasons with the Capitals. He was actually a center on the only team in Washington history that's gone to the Stanley Cup Finals back in '98. So he knows what the city is like. He knows how good the fan base can be when they're winning. And I think he'll bring both the defensive style that you need certain nights, because remember, he was in New Jersey as an assistant on the Stanley Cup runner-up team this year, and they made the run from the 6th seed in the playoffs because they had great goaltending and they played some great defense. So he'll bring the offensive style that he played when he was in the NHL and is a Hall of Famer now. It was just announced yesterday that he made the Hall of Fame this year. But he'll also still bring those elements of defensive-style hockey. So I don't think we're going to go back to the breakneck, up and down the ice, the Capitals scoring 6-7 goals. But I don't think they're going to sit back and play a bunch of 2-1 games next year either. I like the hire. I think it'll work out well. And it's important that your captain in Ovechkin is on board as well.
Right. This is another one of those moves from the general manager, George McPhee, which seemed to be of the high-risk, high-reward type. Oates was the power play specialist coach with the Devils, so hopefully he can breathe some life back into the Capitals' power play. They definitely have all the pieces there, but they need to get all cylinders firing at the same time for them to really be unstoppable on the power play. No question. The power play has been awful the past few years. And the assistant coaches that have been with Washington through Boudreau and Hunter are both gone. Dean Everson has taken another job within the league, and I think Jim Johnson also is leaving to take another job. So it's going to be Oates and then whoever he wants to bring in, and they definitely need help on the power play. It's interesting, McPhee now, this is, I think, 3 straight or 4 straight hires that he's made of guys who have not had NHL head coaching experience when the Capitals have brought them in. So like you said, high risk, high reward. If it works out, you look like a genius. If it doesn't work out, it's another bust of a head coach who couldn't get them ultimately to where they want to go, and that's the Stanley Cup Finals. Right. Now I want to move back in time to the draft. The Capitals got a big steal with Forsberg. He's actually going to be going back to Europe for this season. When can we expect him back as a Capital? And also, what current NHLer can we compare him to kind of get an idea of what he's going to be like when he finally comes back?
Well, Forsberg's probably not going to be here at all. Obviously, in 12 and 13, he's going to be back over in Sweden. And they think even 13, 14, because remember, he's a young kid. He's 17,
right.
18 years old. So he's not one of the older, maybe college kids that play in the U.S. or Canada where they draft them and they're 21 and they say they're going to be ready this year. So he may be a year or two away from getting here. Now, from what people have said, he's a guy that is very, very good with the stick as far as being able to move the puck up and down the ice. He does a fantastic job in traffic on some of the highlights that I've seen. Now, obviously, I've never watched the kid play a whole game, so it's hard for me to really say, oh, he reminds me of this guy. But the highlights that I've seen and what people have talked about is they expect him to be a very, very good maybe second-line center by the time he arrives in Washington, maybe third line, depending on his development. But they expect him to be one of those guys who is going to be able to score from the center spot. He's going to be more of an assist guy, but he's also got a very, very good shot, and it's a very quick release. So they think he can be a 20 to 25 goal scorer in the NHL when it's all said and done, and then probably 40 to 45 assists as well. So they're looking at pretty good numbers for him, but as you know, in any sport, when you draft a kid, it's all about potential. And if he reaches it, great. If he doesn't, everybody will ask, well, what was wrong? He fell from being a top 5 pick all the way to 11, so kind of raises some red flags there. But from everything that everybody said, they love this kid. So hopefully we'll see him in minimum 2 years in a Caps jersey.
All right, now I want to move on to hoops because, yes, you are a radio personality in D.C., but you are also the play-by-play man for George Mason, and I've had such a crazy month with health issues. I've been trying to remember when we talked if there was all the news of all the teams leaving the Colonial. Do you remember?
Yeah, there was. They had just announced, VCU and Old Dominion had announced, Georgia State had announced prior to that. But the latest news from the Colonial would involve the fact that the presidents of the remaining universities voted not to allow Old Dominion and Georgia State to play in the CAA tournament this season because they're leaving the conference. VCU had not decided the last time that we talked that they were going to go play in the A-10 immediately,
right?
Which is the decision that they made. And Butler made that same decision, leaving the Horizon. They're also going to play immediately in the Atlantic 10. So yeah, it's been a crazy 6 to 8 weeks for the conference. They're still looking for teams to bring in to replace Georgia State, Old Dominion, and Virginia Commonwealth, and it looks like that College of Charleston is right up there at the top of their list. I know they had a meeting with their boosters and some other folks last night as they try to see if they can raise enough money to make the move. I think College of Charleston will join the conference. After that, there may be 2 more, there may be 4 more. They may try to go all the way to 14 teams, which is 2 more than they had prior, if they think they can get the right schools and it makes sense, for everybody. But right now, I would expect the first name you'll hear is College of Charleston will be the team that's going to come in or the school that's going to come in to replace at least one of the 3 that left.
Right, and it's funny you mentioned that because in that time, since we've had you on, we had the pleasure of having Dave Cohen on from Georgia State.
Sure.
Now, that was great, a really, really great guy. And they're, of course, their football program, Georgia, they really want to make a name with that, so that's why they're doing that. But I wanted to ask you, Davidson, all the hype with Curry, and even last year I believe they made the tournament. So do you see them also as a possible team that could be called up from the Southern Conference?
Yeah, I know that they've had conversations with Davidson. It's nothing official, but just kind of hey, we're interested if you're interested. And the thing with Davidson is they're a small private school, and there aren't that many private schools in the CAA. I mean, you have Mason that has 30,000 students as a public university.
Right.
Delaware is a big public university. James Madison. There are a couple. I mean, Drexel, Hofstra, a couple of the privates in the conference. But Davidson's very happy in the Southern Conference, and they also look at it realistically that, hey, they may be in a one-bid league right now, but more often than not, they're going to be able to compete to win that one bid. If they make the jump to the CAA, all of a sudden they may not be fighting for the top 2 or 3 every single year, and it's costing you more money to travel to all these places, and you're not as successful. So does it make sense? That's something that all of these schools, whether it's Davidson, College of Charleston, Appalachian State has been thrown around because of their football program.
Right, football
all
program.
these different schools, they've got to consider the cost versus the reward for playing in a higher conference if there is one.
Absolutely. I believe Davidson's enrollment is high school. I believe it's 1,600. So
yeah,
you gotta
very
think,
tiny.
Right, you got to think how they're going to fill an arena of 10,000. And I mean, I know they have. I don't know how big the arena is, but I know that they've had so many successful teams of late, and not even just Curry, but other players who've gone on to play in Europe. In fact, I think one of their players who was on that team with Curry, I think the center, I forget, I think it was African. He was playing in Israel or somewhere in Europe. So there's guys there who can be successful. And the last thing I wanted to ask you before we let you go, the Nationals are still doing their thing. We're going into July now. Should we buy into this? Is this the future, or should we now expect the Nationals to contend in not? It's hard to say, but it's not really that great a division as we thought it would be.
Yeah, especially Miami has been awful in the month of June after they were so good in May. I think they've only won 5 times this month, so Miami is really struggling
and the Phillies,
this month, and they've kind of fallen off. Yeah, the Nats are playing well, and what it is, it's all about their pitching. They have, right now, with the ERA under 3, they have probably one of the best pitching staffs, if they keep this up, that we've seen in the last 25, 30 years. They're going to rival the Braves staff when they had Smoltz and Glavine and all those guys, and Maddox all at the top of their game. The problem that they've had, and now they broke out of it last night, they scored 12 runs against the bad Colorado team, but they've got to find a way to score more runs because they're near the bottom of the major leagues in runs scored. So your pitchers every single night are under pressure to keep the other team from scoring more than 3 or 4 runs to even have a chance. And I don't know that you can sustain it for an entire year. They've done it so far, and it's funny, every single month we go, I'm not sure they can keep this up. I'm not sure they can keep it up, and they've done it so far. But if their offense comes around, they're going to be real, real tough to beat in the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs because of their pitching. But if the offense breaks out at all, this team becomes very, very dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so much talent, and as you said, amazing pitching staff. And it's great because also the Orioles have been great. I'm a Blue Jay fan, so it's tough for me to see the Orioles doing well. But at the same time, being a Blue Jay fan and knowing what it's like to be in 3rd, 4th place every year, it's good. And I love Adam Jones, and I'm happy for Oriole fans out there. And I wish them the best of luck. If the Jays aren't going to do it this year, then let someone else do it besides the Red Sox, Yankees, or even the Rays. I've grown to hate the Rays. I never thought if you would have told me that 5 years ago, I would have, said you were crazy.
Right.
But now the Rays are a very good team. And unfortunately, I wish we had more time, Bill. It's always a lot of fun. We thank you. It's been great, and we're looking forward to having you on again in the future.
Raphael, it's always a pleasure talking with you guys, and anytime you need anything, you know how to get in touch with me. I'd love to do it.
All right, thank you, Bill. Have a great day.
I appreciate it, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, that was Bill Rowland, and now Ari is going to say goodbye to everyone because that's how the show ends.
Yes, indeed. We've had a great show. We appreciate everyone who came on tonight's program. And we got things started at the 5 o'clock hour with Rob Adams, who discussed a little bit of everything. We discussed Jerry Sandusky trial, the NBA Finals, and the incident in Yankee Stadium last night where the fan helped out one of the Yankees and kind of fooled the umpire, pulled a fast one by pretending to catch a foul ball. 5:30 was Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner, 7-time Emmy Award winner, discussing sports in general, and 6 p.m. discussing soccer. We had on
Zach Lee Rigg from Goal.com, very interesting reporter, has a lot of good inside scoop.
And then at 6:15, Bradley, the skeleton racer from Israel, who did the interview at the Tachana Merkazit. And then finally, to wrap things up, 6:30, Bill Rowland.
From The Fan in D.C. And tomorrow, we have a great show. It's going to be my last show here.
For about a month?
For about a month, until August 1st. So I made sure it was a good one. And we're going to start off with Harvey Fromer, talk about MLB, and I think specifically Harvey requested NBA draft history since tomorrow's the draft. We'll confirm that. If not, Ari and Harvey will talk about myths and legends of great history of the 40s, 50s, and 60s of baseball. 10:30, Jason Blesnick, 30 minutes of just straight up breaking down the NBA draft from pick number 1 to pick 60. At 11 a.m., Tommy Smith, ESPN's Tommy Smith, to break down tonight's match, Portugal against Spain, and to break down tomorrow's match, Italy against Germany. At 11:30 a.m., 6:30 local time, Jerry Coleman, from another great radio man, I believe also Fox Sports, not CBS Sports, from Baltimore. Bill was from D.C. And 12 o'clock, David Dobin, just got that confirmed, to talk some New York baseball. And you can't have a week without Ari Bluestein on Israel Sports Radio. So Ari Bluestein will round it out at 12:30. And actually, we have AJ Mitnick again to talk to us about the NBA draft. Tomorrow's going to be a very big NBA draft show, along with soccer and along with just everything. We're going to talk more about LeBron. It's going to be interesting to talk about LeBron with Harvey Fromer. I think a guy with that much knowledge of the history of the game, it'll be interesting to get his opinion. And then starting next Tuesday, you will be with Ari Louis, and let's not tell him, all right? Let's keep it a surprise.
We'll send it till tomorrow. We'll break the surprise tomorrow. And that's a great show. Everyone should listen to that. So we have a lot of great stuff for tomorrow evening. Stay tuned at 5 p.m. local time for Louis Live. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.